Steve Clark died in his sleep at his home in London on Monday night at the age of 30.
What if I told you one of rock's biggest success stories is also one of its most brutal survival stories? Def Leppard conquered the world with massive albums and arena anthems, but behind the fame were amputations, addiction, overdoses, public scandals, and heartbreaking loss that nearly destroyed the band more than once. One member lost an arm in a horrific crash and somehow returned to the stage. Another died at just 30 after a devastating battle with addiction.
He was mixing Valiums, Prozacs, alcohol, Coke, whatever anybody would give him.
And the band nearly collapsed under the pressure of creating one of the most expensive rock albums of its era. So how did Def Leppard survive all of that and keep going? One of the most unforgettable moments in Def Leppard's history is what happened to drummer Rick Allen. On New Year's Eve in 1984, Allen was driving through Sheffield, England with his girlfriend Miriam when disaster struck. While trying to pass another car, he lost control of the vehicle in a horrific crash. He was wearing a seatbelt, but in a horrifying twist, the force of the accident threw him through the sunroof, causing him to lose his left arm. Doctors actually managed to reattach the arm at first, which seemed almost unbelievable. But the situation turned worse when a serious infection developed, and surgeons had no choice but to amputate it weeks later. For Def Leppard, the news hit hard. Lead singer Joe Elliott was crushed, believing what most people would have assumed right away, that Rick's drumming career was finished. But Rick Allen refused to disappear. In an incredible comeback, he had a custom drum kit built specifically for his new reality and completely reinvented the way he played. He reworked his drum fills, adjusted his technique, and somehow returned to live performances in less than 2 years. That comeback looked inspiring from the outside, but the full story was far more complicated. As Allen later explained, throwing himself straight back into the band became a way to avoid dealing with the emotional damage. Instead of processing the trauma, he buried himself in work and began relying on alcohol to cope, pushing himself into a dangerous period of his life. That struggle came to a breaking point in 1997 when Allen faced a domestic abuse charge. He pleaded guilty and was ordered to complete community service, along with attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. It was a painful public chapter in an already difficult personal journey.
It'll become obvious at some point. It'll be like going on the stage now wearing spandex. No.
A real turning point came after Allen met his future wife, Lauren, in 2000. That relationship helped him begin facing the trauma he had kept buried for years and start rebuilding in a healthier way. At the same time, the band itself was dealing with massive pressure. After the explosive success of their 1983 breakout album Pyromania, expectations for the follow-up were sky high. Everyone expected Def Leppard to deliver something even bigger, but creating 1987's Hysteria became a serious struggle. Joe Elliott later admitted the band felt completely stuck. They were exhausted, overwhelmed, and had no real ideas for new songs. Constant touring had drained them. And then Allen's devastating accident changed everything. Their longtime producer, Robert Mutt Lang, helped spark fresh momentum and got them moving toward new material. But just as things started looking more stable, another setback hit. Long stepped away from the project because of exhaustion, leaving the label scrambling. That's when they brought in Jim Steinman, known for his work with Meat Loaf, to try steering the album forward. But that decision turned into a complete disaster. The sessions with Jim Steinman went so badly that Def Leppard eventually paid him to walk away, and not a single note from those sessions made it onto the record. That is a brutal setback for any band, especially one already carrying massive expectations.
Through the classic guitar, through the wind, I said, that's why I play rock music.
The chaos did not stop there. The group briefly teamed up with another producer, trying to keep the album moving. But then Rick Allen's devastating car crash changed everything and brought the entire project to a halt for months. Still, Allen's astonishingly fast return gave the band a path forward much sooner than anyone expected. And in a strange twist, the delay created an opening for Robert "Mutt" Lang to come back and take control of the project again. But Lange's return came with a ruthless decision. He reportedly scrapped everything the band had recorded over the previous 16 months. Imagine pouring that much time, energy, and money into a project only to watch it get wiped clean. With all the production changes, delays, and studio costs stacking up, the numbers became terrifying. Def Leppard would need to sell at least 5 million copies just to break even. By early 1987, it finally seemed like the nightmare might be ending. Then another major setback hit. Mutt Lang was involved in a serious car accident, causing yet another painful delay in the already troubled recording process. And the bad timing kept coming. While finishing vocal overdubs for the album, Joe Elliott was hit with a severe case of the mumps. At that point, the pressure had become relentless. Every delay made the mission even heavier, especially with the giant shadow of Pyromania hanging over everything. Rick Allen later compared the recording experience to serving a prison sentence, which says a lot about how draining the process had become. The band was not just making an album. They were trying to create something that could connect on a massive scale. As Allen explained, it was about trying to bridge that gap of making an album that was kinda universal. In the end, the suffering did lead to enormous success. Hysteria exploded commercially, selling more than 10 million copies and becoming one of the defining rock albums of its era. But Def Leppard's struggles with pressure were not limited to recording chaos. Like many major rock bands, they also faced serious problems tied to alcohol and substance abuse, and in their case, the consequences hit close to home. One of the band's founding members paid the price for that reality. Guitarist Pete Willis had been there from the very start and played a major role in Def Leppard's early rise. But during the making of Pyromania, his drinking reportedly became so severe that it affected his ability to work consistently, leading to his dismissal from the band. Even with that painful ending, Willis has indicated that he does not hold resentment over how things unfolded. As Pete Willis reflected in 2002, "It wasn't nice to go that way, but it was something that needed to happen for them and the best thing to happen health-wise for me." Even after a difficult exit, he recognized the reality of the situation. His replacement, Phil Collen, stepped into the band with serious guitar skills and a strong appetite for partying. Before long, he and fellow guitarist Steve Clark became infamous for their heavy drinking and reckless nights out. The two earned the nickname the Terror Twins, a label that matched their wild reputation perfectly. Their alcohol-fueled behavior became part of rock legend, but behind the image was a much darker reality. Steve Clark's drinking had become deeply serious. Reports described mornings where he would wake up shaking uncontrollably and need alcohol just to steady himself. That kind of dependence showed how far things had gone. Rick Allen also faced his own battle with alcohol following the trauma of losing his arm, later attending Alcoholics Anonymous as part of his recovery after legal consequences tied to his drinking. Across the band, substance struggles were becoming a painful pattern rather than isolated incidents. Steve Clark, one of Def Leppard's founding guitarists, was widely seen as a musical powerhouse and a major creative force during the band's first 15 years. But while his talent was undeniable, his long-running alcohol dependence continued to grow in the background. For a time, Clark and Collen fed into the same lifestyle. But when Phil Collen chose sobriety in 1987, everything changed. Joe Elliott later told Louder in 2015, "They never fell out, but Steve lost his drinking buddy and became a lot more isolated." That shift appears to have left Clark increasingly alone with his struggles. By 1989, the situation reached a crisis point. After a heavy drinking episode, Clark was found unconscious in a bar. That incident forced urgent action, and while he was hospitalized, the band organized an intervention. With their support, he entered rehab in what looked like a major turning point. At first, there seemed to be real hope. While in treatment, Clark met Janie Dean, another patient who was working through recovery from heroin addiction. The relationship became serious, and it appeared both had found someone who understood the fight they were facing. Clark's bandmates made it clear that his health came first. They supported his treatment and reportedly intended for his place in the band to remain open while he focused on getting better. It looked like the beginning of a stronger chapter. Clark and Dean even became engaged, agreeing to support each other in recovery. But after leaving rehab, the situation reportedly unraveled fast. According to accounts from those close to the band, maintaining stability became increasingly difficult. As Phil Collen later described in his autobiography, the relationship became harmful to both of them rather than supportive. Dean reportedly returned to heroin use, while Clark resumed heavy drinking. Instead of helping each other move forward, they appeared to reinforce the same destructive cycle, pushing an already fragile situation into even darker territory. At one stage, Steve Clark had become so disconnected from the people around him that even his bandmates often did not know where he was or what condition he was in. The situation had become deeply unstable. During one heavy episode, Clark suffered a fall and cracked a rib. He was prescribed pain medication and reportedly warned not to mix the medication with alcohol. That warning carried serious risks, but events took a tragic turn. On January 8, 1991, Phil Collen received the devastating phone call no friend wants to get. Steve Clark had died from an accidental overdose. He was only 30 years old, a shocking loss for the band and for the rock world. In another heartbreaking development, Janie Dean also died from an overdose a few years later. After Rick Allen's extraordinary return following his life-changing accident, Def Leppard may have believed they had already survived their worst chapter. But Clark's death hit in an entirely different way and shook the band to its core. Phil Collen was crushed by the loss of his friend. The grief hit so hard that he decided to leave the band, believing there was no realistic way to keep performing after something so devastating. With one founding guitarist gone and another ready to walk away, Def Leppard's future suddenly looked dangerously uncertain. A band that had survived injuries, chaos, and impossible recording sessions now faced the possibility of completely falling apart. Eventually, Joe Elliott reached out to Collen and had the conversation that changed everything. Elliott reportedly told him that Clark had carried shame about his addiction struggles and would never have wanted the band's future destroyed because of what happened. That perspective gave Collen a reason to continue. Collen later stayed with the group, channeling his grief into songwriting and performing as a way to cope and rebuild. That decision helped keep Def Leppard moving forward through one of its darkest periods. In 1992, Def Leppard brought in Vivian Campbell to fill the role left by Clark, and the band continued creating new music for decades afterward. As the group once joked in an interview exchange, "You guys still like each other. We like each other." A simple line, but after everything, it says a lot. But tragedy and turbulence were not limited to the stage. Rock stardom has a long history of putting intense pressure on personal relationships, and Def Leppard's members experienced their share of difficult chapters in their private lives as well. Joe Elliott married his first wife, Carla, in 1989, after first meeting her at a nightclub in 1982. Their marriage eventually ended in divorce in 1996. Elliott has openly spoken about the excess surrounding rock fame, once saying, "All these groupies started making moves on us. Yes, we certainly took advantage of it and all sowed our wild oats. That environment clearly brought its own complications." Elliott later remarried, wedding his second wife, Christine, in 2004. Rick Allen also faced serious turmoil in his personal life. His first wife was Stacy Lauren Gilbert. In 1996, Allen was arrested following allegations of domestic violence involving her. He later pleaded guilty in connection with the case, as previously discussed, and the couple remained married for a period before divorcing in 2000. It was another painful chapter during an already difficult era in his life. Rick Allen later married his second wife, Lauren, in 2003. Relationship struggles were not unique within the band either. Vivian Campbell added to that history when he divorced his first wife, Julie, in 2012 after 25 years of marriage. Then there is Phil Collen, whose personal life brought even more entries to that list. His first marriage to Jacqueline lasted from 1989 to 1995. His second marriage to Anita ran from 1999 to 2010. Reports say Collen married his current wife, Helen, just 9 days after his second divorce became final. For a band known for high-speed touring, that is certainly a fast timeline. But despite all the fame, Def Leppard has long dealt with a different kind of frustration: respect from critics and parts of the music world. This is a band that has sold more than 100 million albums worldwide, including 2 records certified diamond, while staying relevant for over 4 decades. Yet they are still often dismissed with labels they strongly reject. One of the biggest complaints has been the tendency to box them in as just another hair metal act. That label has clearly irritated the band for years. Joe Elliott pushed back hard in a 2019 interview with the New York Times, saying, "We couldn't have been so far removed from that if we tried." From the band's perspective, the criticism ignores what made their music different. The massive, layered production on 1987's Hysteria stood apart from much of the heavier music scene at the time, blending polished hooks with a studio style that was unusually ambitious for that era. Their frustration with that image even affected business decisions. Def Leppard initially refused to license their music for the hit Broadway production Rock of Ages because they disliked being grouped with the glam metal scene the show celebrated. The band reportedly described it as a play based on everything that we stood against. That is about as direct as it gets. Still, positions can change. When Rock of Ages was later adapted into a movie starring Tom Cruise, the band eventually agreed to participate. Joe Elliott later joked, "There isn't a person alive that's never changed their mind." A sharp line, and a reminder that even long-running feuds with labels and reputations can take unexpected turns. Another example of Def Leppard feeling overlooked was their long wait for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame recognition. For years, the band was left off the ballot despite their massive commercial success and lasting impact on rock music. That frustration led Joe Elliott to downplay the honor at one point, suggesting that while recognition would be nice, it was not something the band considered essential, and even saying they might skip the ceremony. But when Def Leppard was finally inducted in 2019, they did show up and took their place in rock history. Another serious challenge came through guitarist Vivian Campbell, who joined the band in 1992 following Steve Clark's death. In 2013, Campbell was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, beginning a long and difficult health battle. Treatment options for this type of cancer have advanced significantly, offering real hope, but Campbell's road has still been incredibly demanding. He went through chemotherapy, then a stem cell transplant that unfortunately did not stop the disease from progressing, pushing him toward newer treatment options. As Campbell recalled, an oncologist once asked him, "You know, are your legs itchy?" He replied, "Yeah. How did you know?" That unusual symptom became part of the story surrounding his diagnosis and treatment journey. Despite everything, Campbell fought his way back strongly enough to return to performing with Def Leppard. For a time, it looked like the worst might be behind him. But in 2015, the cancer returned, forcing the band to cancel tour dates while Campbell went back into treatment. It was another crushing setback for a band that has faced more than its share of painful chapters. Since then, Campbell has continued battling the illness with determination. Reports indicate that after other treatments fell short, immunotherapy became an effective tool in helping keep the cancer under control, even if it has not completely eliminated the disease. And through it all, he has kept performing, recording, and living his life with remarkable persistence. Campbell continues touring with Def Leppard as well as his side band Last in Line, showing the same resilience that has defined so much of this band's story. Def Leppard's journey has been packed with triumph, heartbreak, survival, and comeback after comeback. Which Def Leppard moment shocked you the most? Or which chapter of their story hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next deep dive into music history and rock drama. See you in the next video.